Got Hard Rock on our left. Who is that wanting to go to Hard Rock? That's right here on our left.
Oh, we just asking about it.
Oh, okay.
Sheep.
If you look at any DC tags around here, let's see if we can find one. We got some, those are Maryland tags there, Virginia. Anyway, if we see any that say DC, well, the Tesla doesn't even have a tag. Alright. Well, if you see... Archives is open until 5 o'clock this week. Inside the memorial, there is a little museum about the history of the Navy. Up ahead of us on your left, that picture scroller building there today is the headquarters for the National Council of Negro Women. Back in the mid to late 1800s. Practices from big business. On your right side, the classic art building for the National Gallery of Art. Done back in 1947. Over to your left, the Canadian
anybody that used the voice of man. Can't imagine why. We're going to make this next step on Raoul Wallenberg Place. Raoul was a true hero during World War II, a Swedish diplomat that spent his own fortune gathering up old hotels and boarding houses. He would hang Swedish flags on them, turning them into many embassies, and by doing so was able to save the lives of almost 100,000 in Nazi-occupied Hungary. And it's the perfect place for his road as it brings us to the back entrance of the Holocaust Museum. You'll see 2 pieces of statuary here, an upside-down house, and a tree trying to regrow against the building. Those 2 statues are lost, and the elm tree in front of us, right behind all of those benches. Now these stops do get quite crowded with buses. So if you hop off here, you hear the screw propeller during the days of the Civil War. However, that same propeller is still in use to this day in our nuclear submarines and battleships. John Erickson also designed and built our very first ironclad battleship. That would be the USS Monitor, and crafted that vessel in such a way as to keep the engine going. The War II Memorial. Now you'll notice our newer memorials have been dug down into the ground. This is a key example as to why on our left. It does not block the view across America's front yard, the National Mall. A clear view of the Lincoln Memorial at the far left. That's a beautiful fountain. And if you look across the fountain to the back wall, you notice the curved wall. Upon that wall, gold stars. There are 4,048 stars there. Each star represents 100 lives that our servicemen sacrificed in the defense of our nation and our allies during World War II.
Yeah, someone drew that back. 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 Yeah, someone drew that back.
just behind it. Capitol campus stretches out over 5.
Yeah, mommy said okay. Nathan, you don't have to do it. So shall we do it?
I say okay.
Okay, so how do you do it?
We'll figure it out later, not now.
Plaza. You can. It's about to die.
There's good reason for that. It was actually cast in the same foundry in England as the Liberty Bell, but this one's much newer. This was actually a gift for America's bicentennial year, 1976. It toured the country by train that year, ended its journey here in Washington, where it took up permanent residence on the plaza there beside us. It does not have the famous crack in it that the Liberty Bell is so well known for, but if it's kept outdoors for a couple of hundred years here, somebody will have to change the script on that someday, long after I'm gone. Union Station behind us is over 100 years old. The first trains rumbled through there in 1908. The station was designed by a Chicago architect named Daniel Burnham. He also built its next-door neighbor. Over here on the right, take a look at a Smithsonian museum you may have not even knew existed. Not all of the Smithsonians are on the National Mall. Here's one example to the contrary. The Smithsonian is a prominent labor union, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. Here on your right, lots of lobbyists work inside this building. Up and around all four sides of the U.S. Capitol building. We are the only tour company in Washington permitted to follow this route. We're really the only commercial vehicles regularly allowed to travel up and around all four sides of the Capitol building. We greatly thank the trust that the U.S. Capitol Police has in us, and has had for 35 years now. So we're climbing the Senate side, instrumental in implementing a nationwide school lunch policy, which did not exist before he thought of it, and then rallied support for it up here on Capitol Hill. Back in the 60s, he was a great personal friend of President Lyndon Baines Johnson. They went to lots of baseball games together here in Washington, when the home team, of course, was not yet the Nationals, but still the Senators. Senators 2.0, in a way, before that team left for Arlington, Texas in 1971. It became the Texas Senator Everett Dirksen of Illinois, and then further down the same block, already out of view the most, is a building named for Philip Hart of Michigan. He was known as the conscience of the Senate during his years in that body. On your left, everybody, is the highest court in the land, the U.S. Supreme Court. Take a look at that very important message that they chisel into the building there above the Corinthian-style columns. It says up there, equal justice under law, which is our hope, of course, for the U.S. justice system. On either side of the grand staircase, you have the two seated statues. The woman on the left is known as the contemplation of justice. The man on the right, known as the authority of law. Working inside, but probably not now, are 9 U.S. Supreme Court justices. That, of course, includes the newest member of the court. By name, she is Justice. The most scandalous fountains in Washington. But as a family-friendly tour, I'm not going to say another word about Lord Neptune and his pool party. That couple seems happy with it. The Jefferson Building of the Library of Congress is what you see here in the foreground on the left. Keep looking left and you'll see all 3 buildings that make up the Library of Congress as we sweep around to the right here. In turn, Jefferson, Adams, and Madison. Now we're on the House side of Capitol Hill, everybody, and the long-standing custom over here has been to name the buildings after previous speakers of the House, men like Joseph Cannon of Illinois. You'll see in just a second his name is on this building, which, yes, is the doppelganger of the Russell Senate office building from across the lawn. Looks just like it. And then also here on the left is the building named for Representative Nicholas Longworth, who was from the Cincinnati area of Ohio. A long time ago, Longworth got married at the White House in 1906. He married Alice Roosevelt there, daughter of President Theodore Roosevelt. At the wedding reception that day, they used a military sword to cut their wedding cake. Not many couples can say that. Do we have any Texans on board tonight? You know the reputation of your state, right? They do things bigger in Texas. So not surprisingly, the largest of the 6 congressional office buildings is this one on the left, and it bears the name of a favorite son of the state of Texas, Sam Rayburn. His statue is just inside the main doors there. His name is on the building there as well. Fair to say, Representative Rayburn was no fan of term limits. He was elected and re-elected many times by his generous constituents in his home district in Texas. All in all, they elected him 24 consecutive times to Congress, which means he spent 48 years, nearly half a century, in elected leadership up here on Capitol. You'll know instantly that you're nearby a war memorial, as we are right now. When we get the green light, you'll be able to see beyond the flagpole to the plaza there. That is called the American Veterans Disabled for Life Memorial. It was dedicated beside the Hubert H. Humphrey Building, which is the brutalist building ahead here on the left, in October of 2014. A Hollywood actor by the name of Gary Sinise was the guest speaker at the dedication ceremony that day. And that's so fitting when you consider that Sinise's most famous role to date, arguably, was playing Lieutenant Dan in the movie Forrest Gump, a character drawn as a double amputee from the time of the Vietnam War. Take a look at the American Veterans Disabled for Life Memorial. Hubert H. Humphrey, of course, was the favorite son of the state of Minnesota. He became Vice President of the United States in light of the tragedy of November 22nd, 1963. He was then also the Democratic nominee for president in that turbulent year of 1968. Turning right, but looking left, is the very first Smithsonian that we see out here on the National Mall together tonight, and it won't be the last. This building, one of the most unique looking buildings in Washington, houses what we call the National Museum of the American Indian. Now, take a look out the front windows of the trolley. We're approaching the most familiar public face of the Capitol building these days, the West Front. In many ways, Ronald Reagan made that so as he prepared to take the oath of office as the 40th U.S. President of the United States in January of 1981. He flipped the script on us. He said that he did not want to turn his back on the people of the West as he became President of the United States. So he was the first to insist on being sworn in here on the West Front lawn. Up until that time, from the time of our 7th President, Andrew Jackson, we swore in presidents on the other side of the dome, uphill on the East Front steps, where we just came from. But Reagan insisted on something different, and to date, each of his successors, Democrats as well as Republicans, have followed suit. James A. Garfield of Ohio took the oath of office uphill, of course. You see his dates there. So he was not when we're over in Northern Virginia later on tonight, but that's your last great close-up view of the U.S. Capitol. We're going to head down the interior of these different First Ladies to the various inaugural malls. Next up here on the right, currently the newest Smithsonian of them all, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, also requires timed entry passes to enter, everybody. Go to the same website, si.edu, and also the Museum of the American Latino. They have not yet told us which museum is going where. The larger museum, whichever one that is, will be right here on your right. Whichever one is built here will be the neighbor right across the street from this important museum, the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. Inside this building on a daily basis, they tell a very sad story of man's inhumanity to fellow man. But they tell that story with great care and great compassion. They tell that story in a very compelling way. It's well worth a visit for people of most ages on board tonight. Not all ages, I know, but most ages I would strongly contend. Take a look at these faces. Familiar faces, I think, on these banners. Might be in your pocket right now. These are the guys that are the faces of our different denominations of paper money, as we call it. And the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, this old building that we're passing by now, is one of only 2 legal sources of it in our area. This is Potomac. Potomac is an Algonquin word. It was named by Native Americans. The name there's a difference. But as we come to the end of the road, temporarily as they do this tunnel project up ahead of us here, we're going to make our first stop of the night, everybody, West Basin Drive. You'll need a chance to get off the trolley, stretch your legs, use the restroom, see 2 memorials while you're at it, and then come back to the very same seats that you're in now in about 30 minutes' time.
few people.
He rather his upper torso emerging out of the stone. Hopefully you notice that he holds in his left hand, with his arms folded in front of him back there, a rolled up scroll. And as he holds it, he looks out across the waters of the tidal basin, more or less back in the direction of Thomas Jefferson, inside the Jefferson Memorial. Now when we passed by the Jefferson Memorial ourselves on the trolley earlier, you may have seen that Jefferson had a 150-foot mark or so. You notice pretty clearly that there's a color break happening in the stone here, right? There's a lighter colored stone used down by the base, but only up until that 150-foot mark, and then a subtly darker stone is used the rest of the way to the top. The monument was built in two distinct phases, prior to and then long subsequent to the Civil War. The original designer of the monument was a man named Robert Mills. All that he was able to see through to completion of the project was that 150-foot stump marked by the lighter colored stone. Money for the project ran out in 1854, and then Civil War followed less than a decade later. In our photo archives at Old Town Trolley, we have this amazing photo of Civil War Union soldiers standing on the bluff over here with just the stump of the Washington Monument behind them. It remained that way until long after the Civil War ended. Died, there were again 36 states that were